I love Destiny. Not only is it one of my favorite fictional universes, it's also a game that I learned to love over the course of years. You see, I didn't always like Destiny. In fact, I outright disliked it. Back in 2014, it was quite popular to not like the game. The story was, well,
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
The sting of Bungie making something that wasn't Halo still hurt, and it didn't help that it just wasn't easy to like Destiny. It was more fun to hate Destiny. Fun to meme on Destiny with very little nuance. But cut to 7 years later, Destiny is one of my favorite franchises in gaming. In order to get to the bottom of how I learned to love Destiny as a Halo fan, I'd like to walk you through my personal journey. But before we do that, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by the mobile and PC game, Raid: Shadow Legends. It's a character-driven RPG set in a surprisingly fleshed-out fantasy world, with an expansive roster of characters and motivations to play. I'll provide links down below for those curious. What took me by surprise the most when trying Raid for the first time was the incredibly well-paced introduction to its gameplay hook, world and story. Normally, I get quite overwhelmed by mobile games, but within 10 or so minutes, I knew what the stakes were, who my favorite champions were, such as Sniper, and the upgrade paths I wanted to take them on. It's even available on the PC, which has given me something short and sweet to play each morning when I'm waking up. The turn-based nature of the combat means that there's quite a lot of room to play at my own pace, and the RPG nature of it means that I feel like I'm always making progress towards optimizing my mission runs. I've also found the community to be quite friendly. They're constantly helping new players get familiar with which champions to start out with and the best places and missions to grind gear. The developers are no slouch either. The politics of the game's world and characters are constantly in a state of flux. Currently, a new faction is being introduced to the game in the form of the Shadowkin. Inspired by the aesthetic and mythos of medieval Japan, the Shadowkin's incursion into the world of Raid is a sudden thing. Their motivations are mysterious, and the champions they've introduced bring their own style of ninja-like flair that I know I'll be chasing. With over 11 new champions added, over 200 missions to grind, and 5 tough new levels for almost every single dungeon in the game, I have a feeling I'll be keeping Raid on my laptop for a while. If you want to support the channel, check the description down below for links on how to play Raid, and a big thank you to the developers of Raid for sponsoring the video. Destiny 1 was unfortunately a meme. This isn't even about the quality of the game itself. Internet hyperbole decided that it was a meme game that was to be made fun of. I feel it was hard to shake off the inherent stepmom syndrome that came with this new franchise. Sort of a, "you're not my real mom, I miss when you made Halo" salt that was rubbed in the wound when Activision announced that Destiny would be receiving exclusive content on the PlayStation. Seeing as I was a gross Xbox fanboy back in 2014, this obviously made me quite upset. How could they betray Xbox like this? What really hurt though was when Halo 5 and the Taken King dropped within a month of each other in 2015. One was this really charismatic expansion pack that solved a lot of people's issues with Destiny and included solid storytelling and world building, allowing players to finally get a peek under the hood of Destiny's universe and what it was all about. Halo 5, on the other hand, was such a disappointment that it shook my faith in the Halo series, and when stacked against the likes of Destiny, which was doing really well, yeah, I was quite salty. Over the course of 2016 to 2017, I began to learn a valuable lesson from the disappointment of Halo 5. I didn't need to be a mega fan of just one thing. I can have room in my heart for many things. That's a pretty dumb lesson to learn so late in life. But you know what? I was willing to give Destiny a serious second shot. I was willing to meet it halfway. First things first was learning about the story and universe of Destiny. What is its universe all about? When we talk about Halo, we know the basics of the Halo universe, right? It's set in the future. There's this extinct race of aliens that built these giant monolithic super weapons called Halo, and the Covenant want to control Halo. Humanity has super soldiers that are made to stop them. What surprised me about Destiny is how simple its premise is. It's actually got a lot in common with Halo. The emphasis on lost history, mysterious ruins, humanity on the back foot, and on the verge of ending. So, the idea is this. In the modern day, humanity came into contact with alien life. On the surface of Mars, 3 astronauts witnessed a divine being cause rainfall. It was this historic and religious moment where these astronauts, drenched in the first Martian rainfall, witnessed the divine power of creation from this extraterrestrial being. First contact with alien life was not violent. It was not war. It was through the creation of life on other worlds. We called this being the Traveler. The Traveler had the ability to channel a cosmic force that dates back to the creation of matter, referred to as the light. Light didn't obey or even adhere to the laws of physics. Seemingly impossible things can be done with the light. The Traveler shared this light with humanity, and we accomplished wonders. We took our first proper steps as a species, and under the Traveler's guidance, spread across the stars and entered a truly incredible age for the human race. It was a time of happiness, growth, and discovery. The Traveler's love for humanity was strong, and our love for it stronger. But during our happiest hour as a species, something found the Traveler. It's vague. Not many documents are left about what exactly happened, but something entered the solar system. Something ancient, something angry. It's vague. Not many documents were left about what exactly it was, but it was described as formless, impossible to comprehend, eldritch. It cut its way through the human race, making a beeline straight for Earth, straight for the Traveler. Its presence caused mass hallucinations. It could trigger this deep, primal, irrational fear in people who are exposed to its energies. This darkness was close to destroying the human race. But in a final act of love, the Traveler harnessed the light and wiped out the darkness. But in the process, it crippled itself. Humanity was in ruins. The Traveler was barely conscious. In order to ensure that our species could defend itself as it fell back into a deep sleep to heal, the Traveler released these little machines that would seek out the dead, use the light to bring the dead back to life, and rebuild their bodies into a living conduit for the cosmic light of the universe. They're more than human. They're guardians. As a resurrected being, a guardian, it's your duty to use your ability to channel the light to protect the weak and defend humanity from the alien forces that threaten what's left of the human race. While Destiny's premise is rather interesting, its universe is even more interesting. Each of the alien races that you fight against or work with have long and detailed histories to them. There's these strange aliens in Destiny called the Hive, and I wasn't quite sure who or what they are. They seemed like fantasy undead with zombies, magic-casting witches, and so on. Well, I went on YouTube and found a channel called Mylan Games, who did a reading from a Hive historical text that claimed to document their origins. The Hive weren't always space zombies. Thousands of years ago, they lived on an incredibly harsh water planet with a violent and ruthless ecosystem. They were on the extreme low end of the food chain, with an average life expectancy of no more than 10 years. Their planet was on the verge of complete ecological collapse, and in a desperate effort to survive, the Hive found something deep in the core of their world, beneath the oceans. Something ancient and worm-like. Something that offered this frail species strength. But that strength came with a catch. In order to wield the power it offered, they'd need to allow their bodies to become hosts to the parasitic larvae of these worm gods that slumbered beneath the oceans. These parasites have the ability to channel cosmic forces such as the darkness and offer its power to any species that hosts their offspring. Now known as the Hive, every member of this race are infested by parasitic worms, As a member of the Hive kills and kills, the parasite inside their body transforms that act of murder into literal physical power. The more a Hive kills, the more it will physically grow in power and strength. It's a pretty good deal, right? Well, what the Hive didn't realize is that if they ever showed hesitation, if they ever stop being apex organisms in the universe, proving their dominance over life, the parasite in their body will deem them weak and consume them. If they ever stop killing or dominating, and just for a second consider peace, the leeches in their gut will completely consume them. They can't be reasoned with, because reasoning to them is fatal. Isn't that interesting? And that's only one species in the Destiny universe. There's many more, such as the Vex, a machine race that corrupts and converts everything they touch. They transformed Mercury into one of their supercomputers, and now they're currently in the process of corrupting the centaur planet Nessus. They want to corrupt, spread, transform, and eventually reach a stage where the very microscopic building blocks of the universe are corrupted. They want to assimilate reality itself, program themselves into the universe. What's scary about this is they seem to have proven it's possible. They have a localized pocket of space that they call the Vault of Glass, where they've managed to convert reality within it into something that they can control. If what they achieved in the Vault of Glass is spread across the universe itself at a microscopic level will become just one giant Vex organism. All the races of Destiny have their own motivations and reasons for being, and sites such as Destinypedia are a great gateway drug into the expansive world of this game. Currently in Destiny, the darkness is rebuilding itself. It's reaching out to Guardians, and even more interestingly, it's explaining itself, clarifying itself. It's an interesting time to be a Destiny fan, as the enemy of the series is starting to directly influence the game's world and engage with players. I love Destiny's world, but I play for reasons beyond just its universe. What is the hook of Destiny? It's quite interesting, actually. Halo as a series is about rather simplistic core gameplay, but a complex external sandbox. Limitations on the player's core abilities encourage you to branch out and explore your environments and levels for ways to solve your problems. Find the right tools for the job. In Destiny, you are the right tool for the job. While Halo is very externally focused, Destiny is internally focused. As a Guardian, you have enhanced mobilities such as jetpacks, double jumps, etc., and a multitude of offensive ways to use the light and gear to wield. The Hunter class is sort of like a swashbuckling hero, throwing knives. A Han Solo-esque sense of swagger and charisma permeates the animation work and abilities that a Hunter has. The Titan is for those who are more militaristic and enjoy the fantasy of a super soldier. It uses grenades, bare fists, and physical abilities like Titan charging. It's my recommendation if you want a Halo Spartan-like experience. My personal favorite, though, is the Warlock. It's essentially a science fiction wizard, casting abilities, hovering around, and shooting guns. The ruined worlds of the solar system are rife with bounties to complete, hidden lost sectors which are marked by this symbol in the open world, and various public events that players can participate in. These worlds can be explored on foot or in a sparrow that you can summon, which handles kinda like a ghost from Halo. The open worlds, however, are a bit more of that kind of unfocused exploration. For a more focused way to get loot and take on AI, you're looking at running strikes. Strikes are essentially match-made 3-man missions, where your fire team is tasked with stopping a variety of doomsday situations across the galaxy. The soul of a strike, to me, is that Avengers-like fantasy. These disconnected missions that are sort of like another day in the life of a Guardian. One of the many crises that you'll be called upon to solve as you patrol the galaxy and protect the weak. When you first play a Destiny strike, it's a rather slow and clunky affair. For beating it, you'll maybe get a gun that creates an explosion upon landing headshots. Well, next time that you run a strike, you'll be strategically landing headshots on groups of enemies, clearing them faster. You complete this strike, and now you find a weapon mod that lets your shotgun do extra damage against bosses. Well, now you have a solid weapon to use against bosses. You can be a bit of a heavy hitter for your team, and this keeps going and going until you become an absolute wrecking ball, steamrolling through strikes and clearing upwards of 20 enemies at a time in under 10 seconds, starting out as a bumbling noob, and then slowly building my way into a space wizard that hovers above the battlefield. Raining death with my abilities and weapons that I have refined and focused to a T makes Destiny's progression one that I find really fun. It's why I've pitched Destiny to people as a game where you optimize your lethality. When the normal strikes start getting a bit too easy for you, you're ready to start branching out to the rest of the content. If you see this symbol on your map, it's something that you can pursue for a powerful reward. There's a variety of PvE content beyond standard strikes, such as the much harder Nightfall strikes, the short enemy hunts, and bounties for vendors across the various planets. But there's another way to get loot, and that's the Crucible. While strikes are something that I find incredibly fun, Crucible is a little bit more confusing. I won't lie. The Crucible is not well designed conceptually. It's essentially your standard competitive multiplayer stuff. 2 teams or free-for-all, sometimes it's team deathmatch, sometimes it's something objective-based. The issue with Crucible is how the player's ability to just have the best stuff on their person at all times makes it a really sloppy affair, as opposed to Halo, where you have even starts and it's up to the maps to scatter weapons and equipment around that players have to fight over. If a piece of equipment is too overpowered, it can just be removed from the map by the Forge tool. If something's overpowered in Destiny, it has to be nerfed into something that's not that much fun anymore, because it's certainly not going anywhere. It's here to stay. What I will say though is Crucible acts as an excellent decompressor at the end of a play session, if you just ignore the competitive nature of it. Win, lose, doesn't matter. Just kill enemies with the cool loot that you got. Don't try to engage with it like you would a more well-executed multiplayer, and you'll have a lot more fun with Crucible. Bungie used to have a version of Crucible in Destiny 1 that had vehicles, large open maps, and I always found that to be more fun than this pretend Halo/Call of Duty. I wish that Bungie would consider returning to that style of Crucible. Thankfully, Crucible rewards both winners and losers of a match with loot, and the bounties that you can get from the Crucible vendor at the tower, Lord Shacks, are relatively easy to do. Put on a podcast, turn down the volume of your TV, and Crucible can be an easy pastime on a slow afternoon, and the rewards are pretty good. Bungie's talent with stylized feedback, special effects, and animations is something I miss quite a lot in modern Halo. But I'm happy their talent lives on in Destiny. In Motion, the best way to describe Destiny is an interactive real-time action anime or cartoon. Body proportions are never too realistic, and sound work and animations lean very hard into the exaggerated and stylized rather than realistic. It can be the overly dramatic way that a Vex machine collapses to the ground, metal grinding and white brain fluid spraying everywhere. Or the way that fallen walkers will explode from the inside out, giving the explosion a real sense that the internal mechanisms of the machine are detonating and punching through the metal exterior of the machine. It reminds me a lot of Bungie's approach to explosions in Halo, where it always feels like the fireball is punching its way out of the machine. It's not just the external animations though, because Destiny has some of the best view model animations that I've ever experienced in a game, with the scout rifle reload being probably one of my all-time favorite gun reloads. It's flashy, it's quick, and really readable. When discussing sound, Destiny has some of the best sound design in gaming as well. Not because it's loud though, but because of how subtle a lot of it is. Bungie never really aimed for realism with their sound during the Halo days, always opting for something more theatrical, for lack of a better term. And they still do that here in Destiny, and they've gotten really good at it. When using a hand cannon, the gunshot is accentuated by a loud ping that almost sounds like a hammer striking hot metal. It would be one thing to just have a bland gunshot, but the extra flair, that ping that they added, evokes metalwork and forges. It makes the weapon feel immensely powerful and really sells the name hand cannon. Or how about my favorite frame of auto rifle? When you're firing it, at first you think, yeah, that sounds like a kinetic weapon, but then you listen a little bit closer and you're like, wait a minute, it also kinda sounds a bit like a laser gun. It's a successor to our modern ballistic weapon. The sound design for it is something futuristic, but more importantly, simple. Or how about the sound design of the enemies? It's not an exaggeration to say that sometimes the sound work of the game enhances what I'm visually seeing. You lose a lot when you can't hear these sounds. Popping the head off of a fallen is an incredibly satisfying display of visual craft. You can see the ether that flows through their body leave the neck like hot steam escaping a kettle. Add the sounds though, and you've got the pop of the bodily seal being broken, and then the hissing of the gas mixed with the fallen's scream into one single unified sound that gives character to what you're visually seeing. Musically, Destiny is a workhorse as well. Due to the flexibility of Destiny's universe and its aesthetic, there's a variety of genres in here. The Tangled Shore is where you'll find cowboy-esque Western-style tunes. The Dreaming Cities soundtrack gives the Elder Scrolls and Lord of the Rings a run for their money in terms of fantasy. The EDZ has this dreamlike reverence for an age of humanity that's long gone, wrapping the ruins in a cloak of legend and myth. Destiny's music is beautiful, but one of the most underappreciated tracks in Destiny, I believe, comes from, weirdly enough, the loading screen. The logic of Destiny loading screens is that your Guardian is flying to a new destination in your spacecraft, and when this happens, the game gets quiet. A cosmic hum establishes itself. The gears of the universe turning. A strange, otherworldly twinkling starts stirring within the noise. Then a distorted, dreamlike choir rises into the mix before fading back into the atmospheric haze. It's such a haunting and dreamlike track that recontextualizes interstellar space travel as something holy and grander than any of us can possibly understand. The music of Destiny is something wonderful, and while I'll always consider the Destiny 1 Year 1 music as being the series' peak, the 7-year run of the series has yielded some of the most powerful music across a multitude of gaming genres. At the time of recording this, Destiny's new activity draws from techno, electronic, lo-fi influences, and I'm excited to see where the OST goes next. Destiny is a hobby game that I always return to for its universe, music, animations, and gameplay. It's a series that I used to hate along with the popular online crowd, but in reality, Destiny and I always had the potential to get along great, and I'm glad it's a part of my life now. It's a sci-fi universe filled to the brim with potential that I still do think is quite untapped. And while the growing pains of not having the infinite resources of Activision are definitely felt in the game, if you gave Destiny 2 a try right now, I hope that you find a universe you'll grow to love as well. They've even completely redone the intro to Destiny 2, and it's a lot of fun to play through. I keep one of my character slots deliberately open so I can replay the intro to Destiny 2. As a Halo fan, I love Destiny, not because it's a replacement for Halo, but because it's something to love right alongside Halo. And now that that's over, Bungie. If you're watching this, I have a list of irrational demands. I'll personally wash the car of any developer who complies. Bungie, please bring back the old tower. It was more charismatic and iconic than the Destiny 2 tower. Bungie, please bring back Destiny 1 weapon frames as purple drops. It's a crime that you have these incredibly iconic guns from Destiny 1 that would benefit from being a part of Destiny 2's purple loot pool. Bungie, please give us a photo mode or some way to gather cinematic world shots for video creation. Bungie, please confirm if the last city needs to wash the Traveler. Due to it floating out there for years and years exposed to the elements, surely a bird or two has pooped on it. Does the last city need to hose down the Traveler every now and then? The sooner you can get back to me on these, the sooner I'll wash those cars. Thank you. If you found yourself enjoying the video, a like and a share would be really appreciated. And comment down below what your memories with Destiny are. I'm curious to read what you have to say. And with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next video.